Hey, everybody. I don't know what just happened with the song and the intro, but StreamYard's having problems today, so I apologize. I'm sad because I think I have the most awesome intro music, and it kind of makes me happy right before I start talking. And so anyway, I guess the virtual gremlins are in the internet this morning. So yeah, oh well, it's live. It's what happens, right? So anyway, I want to start the show. I want to welcome, I want to say that our special guest, my special guest today is Kira Weiss from the Visual Studio team. Simon, if you want to change to the slide. And so I'm really excited about talking to her because, she's going to be talking about something about Visual Studio that I don't even know about. So, and since I scheduled her to be on the show, I purposely have not looked at this feature of Visual Studio so I can learn along with you guys. So I'm going to be learning something today. Well, I usually learn something, but today especially for sure. So I'm really excited about that because I love learning something new for Visual Studio, especially if it's really going to help me, in my job and be more productive. Right. So I do want to mention. Now my slides are deciding like. So last week, I did a plea to everybody to help the people in India with the current COVID crisis. They're going through a horrible problem right now, and I'll try not to get weepy-eyed this time. But yesterday I received two voice messages from one of my followers in India, and at first I thought she was maybe in the hospital, but no. She's at home on lockdown and is so severely depressed. I thought she was sick and in the hospital. So I'm glad she sent me that because it's really nice to hear from one of my followers, in voice in India. But, it really made me sad at the same time. So I have a lot of followers and friends in India. And so I have a special connection to India. So I really want to have all of you listening to the call today, not the developers in India, really please donate to the relief in India. An easy way to do it through the show is just to use the link above that goes through CSharpCorner, and then they donate it. And last week I did a challenge, and I'm challenging all software engineers, not in India, to match my challenge of $100. And because I know all software engineers except for India or maybe some other countries can afford that. So please match my challenge. I know two people, including Mahesh, who runs CSharpCorner, did that last week. So I'm very grateful for those two, but I want more. So if you do it, please tweet my show so I know that, my geek friends are helping out my geek friends in India. Thanks. All right, so CSharpCorner's got a bunch of really great conferences coming up, and the one that I'm hosting is the Code Quality and Performance Virtual Conference on June 18th, and I'm really excited about this one because this is the first time, maybe ever, there's been a conference like this, and I've wanted to maybe put one of these on for like 10 years. Because this is, as you all know, this is a very important subject to me, probably one of the number one subjects to me these days. So I hope you'll attend, but you can also be a speaker. So if you have something you want to share about code quality, performance, anything, even database performance, please go to CSharpCorner. There's a link somewhere. Maybe Simon can put it up so you can submit your papers and get them in by the end of the month. And then I'll start picking other speakers. I'm getting a lot of great speakers, and one speaker I got this week I'm so excited about, but I'm not going to tell you until we, reveal the speakers' names. But I'll give you a hint. They are from Microsoft. So I'm really excited about this speaker. You'll find out at the beginning of the month. So anyway, I hope you go there. Don't forget, speaking about code quality and performance, my latest code quality book is out, Coding Standards for Microsoft.NET, and it's for .NET 5. Only. My older book is still there for .NET Core and .NET Framework, but the .NET 5 book is there. I hope you buy one because I haven't sold a book in over 90 days. So I guess the COVID is affecting book sales, maybe. I don't know. So, so please do that. Thanks.
Activereports.net is a premium enterprise-level .NET reporting solution for web and desktop applications. Deliver powerful reports with Grape City's intuitive and user-friendly report designers and controls. With Activereports.net, you can build cross-platform reports with .NET Core and now .NET 5. Unlike other reporting tools, Activereports.net supports 3 designers: Visual Studio Designer, end-user report designers, and a standalone designer application for an optimized creative experience. Activereports.net also includes royalty-free deployment with no user fees, so you can freely distribute the customizable end-user report designers for on-demand reporting. This allows you to seamlessly share reports in your ASP.NET, WPF, or WinForms applications without any additional licensing. Users can now take advantage of several long-awaited features available in the v15.1 release. The enhanced section report rendering engine allows you to deploy your application to the Linux server. Activereports.net's continued dedication to WYSIWYG reporting now provides users with the ability to pass custom fonts via an API, so your page, RDL, and section reports display the correct fonts on Linux. Discover all that Activereports.net has to offer. Now through May 15th, you can get free maintenance for 1 year when you buy an Activereports.net license. Grape City's top-rated maintenance is a $500 value and includes a free license to the next major version, 24-hour response times, and elevated priority for screen sharing and phone support. Claim your free maintenance today by entering promo code ARAPR21 at checkout.
All right, I want to introduce our guest. My guest today, Kira Weiss, is a program manager at Microsoft who works on the Visual Studio. She is currently focused on the experience of opening code in Visual Studio, particularly for large solutions and code bases with performance issues. She's actually graduated from the Claremont McKenna College and also the Harvey Mudd College. And she started at Microsoft in May of 2020. So she's a newbie. Huh? She also interned as front-end developer on both Intuit and Radflow, and is the audience development team for TechCrunch. She's excited to be working on product that enables developers to be more productive and create new exciting technologies. Sorry, Kira, I totally screwed up your intro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. No worries at all. Got the gist of it, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, I should have trimmed that down. But it was totally it was so impressive. I didn't really want to, and then I don't know what happened when I got halfway through.
And you were surprised midway. All good.
So welcome. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing well. Yeah, excited to be here, talk about Visual Studio stuff. And I love when you said in the intro that you didn't look up the feature that I wanted to talk about today. Because when we get into that, that'll be a fun surprise for you as well.
Yeah. So, I have to, say that I'm going to have to rewatch my show because it's hard for me to concentrate on what's going on with the chat and everything and listen to you at the same time. But I'm going to try my best. Because like a lot of people, I don't really like watching my shows.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't like to hear my voice. That's fair.
So do you live in Seattle?
Yeah, so I started at Microsoft in August and I moved here as well. I live here with a couple other Microsoft people that I knew from before. And so it's really nice. Living through the pandemic here, moving to a new city was definitely interesting, but I really like it.
Where are you from? I mean, where did you move from?
I'm from California.
Oh, good. California girl.
Yeah.
You kind of look like a surfer.
I'll take it. Okay.
Yeah, well, I love it here too. I live about a mile from the beach, and so down here in San Diego. So it's I love the area I live in. It's really cool. Expensive, but cool.
True.
That's why I have to have so many freaking jobs, is because my mortgage is so high. But I get to live by the beach, which is my favorite thing. Really, I would be on the beach if I had millions of dollars. But
Same.
So anyway, so let's get into it. So let's talk about these tagging solutions. And do you need to share your screen?
I don't think I need to share it.
Okay.
I think I can explain it
Okay.
over audio.
But if you need to, you can. Simon can switch back and forth between our screens and stuff. So just so you know, I should have told you that before the show, but
all good.
We were having technical difficulties, right?
No worries. Yeah, well, I guess so. The feature that I work on is something called solution filters, and I started about 8 months ago, and I've been looking at the things that you mentioned in the intro, but opening your code, large solutions, and performance. And oftentimes those go hand in hand, especially the larger the repo. And so one thing that we found through a ton of customer development is that oftentimes developers don't need the entire repository or the entire solution or code base open, but they still open it. And there's a number of reasons that they do. And there are definitely workflows where developers need the entire code base, but there are exceptions. And so we wanted to give users the option to open some of their projects, but not all of their projects. So like sort of like
the same solution?
Yeah. So you can choose which are unloaded and which are loaded and switch between those. And there's a bunch of variations that people use this to do. So like some people find it useful when they're working for the majority of their time, they exclude their unit tests. Because
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. That's a common use case, because the more projects that you have loaded in Visual Studio, the faster everything else takes, the more memory consumption. And especially when you get up to, it's hard to define what a large solution is because there's so much range in Visual Studio, but like upwards of 100, 200, 500, 1,000 projects, 10,000 projects, there are repos of that size. Visual Studio gets so slow, and that is so difficult to work in as a developer and be productive in. And so for larger repositories, we recommend trying out solution filters and seeing if they fit into your workflow.
Well, one of my comments with that is, why would anybody have hundreds of projects open in any solution? That just sounds insane to me. Why would anybody do that? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What's the use case scenario of that?
There's so many different ones. Some is just older code bases have been around for a long time. They haven't been like refactored or abstracted necessarily, or like game development. A lot of those repos have like almost monolithic code bases with their dependencies so intertwined that they have to open the whole thing. Obviously there's so many different scenarios. I don't know. Yeah. Can't recommend how folks should sort of organize their repos, but we do want to try to help people that are working in repos of that size.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I could never imagine, if I had hundreds of solutions opened, and projects open my solution, I think I'd have to have a couple terabytes of memory, for Visual Studio. Cause, I have 16 gigs on my machine, and, I think maybe my largest solution is, not including the unit test, maybe 5-6 projects. I try to keep it to that number, because even at that number, Visual Studio really slows down, for me. So at 16 gigs. So I'd love to know how much memory these people have on their machine when they open hundreds of projects. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And yeah, I guess I'd also say is like project count is one way to determine like the size of the code base, but also it's number of files, lines of code. There's so much stuff that goes into that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's keep talking about this.
Yeah. Okay. So the feature works so there's basically a couple different ways that you can use the feature, and it's sort of a multi-step process. So I guess the first thing, would it be all right if I share my screen?
Yeah. Simon, can you make sure to switch to our slides?
Let's see if this. Not sure if you can see it. If not, it's fine.
Well, Simon has to switch it. Maybe he's in the bathroom.
Okay, all good.
No, hold on. Simon. Well, maybe we'll come back to it.
I'm still there. Yeah. If you share your
can
screen,
you?
I'll just add it. I still don't see it.
Oh.
Okay, let's see.
Not yet. You need to click on that share button once. Yeah, I see it now. There you go.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to show you on a sample repository. So this is Orchard Core, and this solution has about 160 projects in it. And the way that you would use solution filters is you would come down to the solution file, click that, but then instead of clicking open, you would hit this checkbox at the bottom that says do not load projects. And a lot of people don't notice this, but it's there. And then that will open really quickly with 0 of 160 projects loaded.
Wow.
So that was super fast. Had this been the whole solution, that would have taken much longer. I'm just gonna actually I'll full screen. And so then you can choose the projects that you need, and you can either do one at a time or you can multi-select. And then you have the option to either reload that project or reload that project with its entire dependency tree. So if I do with, dependencies, that's gonna be, so this is 4 projects, but let's see how many that loads.
I like the dependency tree mode. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so those didn't have any, but these ones might. Yeah, the dependency tree option is actually new. So now we have 10 projects loaded, even though we only loaded about 7, and that was the dependencies of those. The dependency option is new, and we added that because users didn't want to have to do it in 2 steps. There is a mechanism as well. So let's say you didn't load the dependency trees. You can also right-click on a project, just reload it, and then you have the option, after you've loaded a single project, you can either reload the direct dependencies of that project, so basically the first layer of the dependency tree, or the entire dependency tree. So I'm not sure if that one has any, but yeah, that one had a couple. So those are sort of 2 mechanisms to make sure you're getting the dependencies that you want. But if it is a monolithic repo or a massive repo, you don't have to load the entire dependency tree.
And I like the comment that just went on the screen, how many of us knew that feature? Exactly. This is why I have her on the show, is to teach us all, because these are one of those hidden secrets in Visual Studio that never gets talked about pretty much. And so I hope you all are learning something today like me. This sounds really cool. So
yeah, that's actually something that we're working on right now. We think that this feature has a ton of impact for users in large code bases, even smaller code bases. There's reasons you would not need to load everything, but it's really difficult to find. And we're obviously working on improving that, but also it's hard to show people the feature, especially because it's a multi-step process. So there's a couple other things that go into this that are really helpful. So first, if you right-click on the solution here, there is an option to hide unloaded projects. So that sort of creates a more manageable workspace. I don't need to see the 144 projects that aren't loaded here. I can just choose what I'm working with. And then you can also go back as well. The other thing that I think is really interesting is there is an option to save as solution filter. And what this is this is a .slnf file. So this is a file extension that's built on top of your normal solution file, but it basically just saves a list of the paths that you've loaded here. So this would have 16 paths. So I have a couple saved here, as you can see, a couple test ones. I can just save this as test 14 of 160, because I have 116 projects loaded. Oops. But so that's really interesting because, so now I've saved that. That's called a solution filter. If I close this solution, when I go to open it again, as you can see, I misspelled it, but this shows up in your recents. It'll show up in the taskbar down here as a recent one. And then when you open it, it remembers the projects that you had loaded before. And it's still a lot faster than loading the entire solution.
No kidding. So someone asked a question about a command line. So to do this from command line, this is how you would do it. You would just open the filter file, right?
Yeah, so actually, great question from the command line. So before, I think I showed you the do not load checkbox, do not load projects checkbox in the file explorer. There's also a command line command that's just / do not load projects. And you can add that to any solution to make sure that it loads basically 0 of the total number of projects. And then also you can open SLNF files from the command line. SLNF files, in terms of opening, function very similarly to SLN files.
Wow. This is great. And, while you were talking, I was thinking about something I've tweeted about quite a few times on Twitter to the Visual Studio team about, I've asked and asked and asked and asked for, the code analysis in Visual Studio to not analyze my unit tests, right? I don't care about that in my unit tests, and it does it every time. So this would fix that. So I could just, for most of the time, especially when I'm doing code analytics, I could just, use solution filter to turn off the unit tests.
Yeah. And
awesome.
A couple other things so if you were using this, but you didn't want to close Visual Studio every time, there's this button up here in this icon menu, and it's to switch views. So if I click that, then it brings up all of your solutions and solution filters, so you can easily switch between them. So you don't have to go up to close the solution and whatever. The other thing that's really interesting that I think is pretty useful is that, so let's say I show the unloaded projects. I'm working in the solution filter. I've already saved the solution filter, but I realize, I need this project. So I reload this project to work in. You'll get prompted to update the solution filter with whatever new projects that you need. So then the next time you open it, it will open 17 projects instead of 16. And you don't have to do that, but if it's something that you're going to use in the future, you can do that, and then you don't have to worry about changing it every time.
Wow. This is really cool. You know what I think we should do, Kira? I think on a regular basis, you should come on the show and do segment about hidden features in Visual Studio that no one knows about, because nobody here knows about this feature, it seems like. So, so 5,000 people watching the show don't know about this feature. That's a problem, right? Especially something as powerful as this. And even if you don't have a large project file, just to get rid of those unit tests while you're coding and analyzing and all that stuff, that to me is worth it,
Yeah. And I've only been at Microsoft 8 months. I'm still learning all the time. I think Visual Studio is a treasure chest of things you can do. It just takes a while to figure them all out.
Well, the reason I say you should come on the show is because not only are you great at explaining this, but you're the newbie on the team. So, they always give stuff like this to the newbie, right? Yeah, you go deal with Dave every few months, right? Yeah.
That's funny. Yep. The other thing I was going to say is, unit tests are one really cool example of how you could use this. There's also a ton of other applications that I've seen users use. So for example, in large repos, if there's new coders or new developers on the team, you can make a filter with say the 10 projects they need so that they don't get overwhelmed by all the projects in the solution. Or you can do it on an individual basis or a team basis. So a lot of teams will do the unit test version, and then anyone on the team can access that, and they'll actually check in the SLNF file. But you can add SLNF files to the git ignore as well, and then use those on an individual basis, because oftentimes day to day, most developers aren't necessarily working in the same files. Maybe not oftentimes, but there are cases where developers are working in different files. That there's also distinctions between different clients or client and server code or front end and back end code. There's all sorts of ways that these can be used. And I think there's a ton of potential for even more ones to kind of come up, but we're still like asking people how they want to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the past, we've seen a lot of teams on large solutions have homegrown solutions to sort of solve for this. So I shouldn't use the word solution, homegrown techniques. So people will have multiple solutions sometimes, but like that can be difficult because then you can't work in multiple at the same time, or they'll do all sorts of different techniques. And so we're hoping that people will learn about this and realize that then you don't have to separate your code as forcefully as people are doing it right now.
You know, I was just thinking, is there a way, you know, when you were saying, you know, open with dependencies, is there, because, you know, a lot of dependencies in solutions, you know, are dependent on, you know, the compiled DLLs, you know, not necessarily NuGet packages and things like that, right? But especially when you're dealing with large solutions like that. So is there a way to basically add a project as a dependency, but not open it?
Add a project as a dependency.
So it compiles, but I don't want to open it. I don't want it opened in the, you know, because I don't want to make any changes in it. I just want to use the DLL from, you know, some code somebody else wrote, the latest version, but I don't want to open it because that might, not only one, I might be tempted to go in there and change things, but also, you know, I just don't want it in the project because I'm not going to do anything with it. I just want it to compile, right?
Right. My thought would be, from what I know, is I don't know that you can do it without opening it. So the word open is where I'm a little unclear. You can load a project and then not double click on it, so not actually use it, which would be what I would recommend, but it still is going to come up in your searches and everything if that's the case.
Okay. There you have an idea for next feature, for next version.
Actually, it reminds me, if anyone watching has any feedback or any ideas for solution filters in any way or form, feel free to either tweet me or email me. I would love to hear feedback on this. We're actively searching for that. So let me know ideas.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything else with this? With solution filters? Any other cool things?
No, I guess. Yeah, no, that's most of this feature. I would say I'm also really curious about feedback people have on opening their repos or their solutions in general, and what techniques people use. I know with larger solutions, people oftentimes, actually also, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sorry.
No, don't. Oh, did you stop already? I wanted you to show me something. That was going to be my next question.
Oh, okay. Then I will share again.
Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you, you know.
All good. I was going to say, any feedback people have on opening their code, I'm very interested in hearing that. And so, would love to learn more about that.
Okay. So before we move off this subject and talk about a few other things before you leave, is a totally great feature. I'm loving this show. So, you know, at the very beginning of your demonstration, you showed us that big solution opening really quick without anything open. Can you show how long it takes normally when it opens?
Yes, give me 1 second. So one other thing that's interesting, actually, I guess I'll mention this, is that with solution filters, Visual Studio will remember your state from before. So last time when I opened this Orchard Core solution, I had 17 projects loaded. So if I were to close this solution and then open it again, it would only load with 17 projects loaded. So I'm just going to do something really quickly. I'm going to delete the .vs folder.
While you're doing that, you know, another thing I thought of was, you know, on all my stuff, especially my open source projects, I benchmark everything. And so, but that's a completely separate solution. But now I think maybe I can add that in, like when I'm doing when I have the unit test loaded, I can also load the benchmarks so I can refactor things and everything at the same time instead of doing it twice, you know, when I open up the benchmark solution. So, I can't wait to, you know, get, you know, Monday or maybe tomorrow, start setting up my projects differently now.
Wait, also let me know how you set them up. I'm curious. I haven't heard of sort of that use case with the benchmarking, but that could be super interesting.
Well, because most people don't benchmark, that's why.
Okay, let's see. Let's open this without that. So it's taking its time.
Yeah, and the other thing, because you probably don't have any of these loaded, but the other thing that dramatically slows down Visual Studio are add-ins and extensions. Dramatically.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I hope that's getting fixed in the next version of Visual Studio. But it's so my Visual. When I open my Visual Studio, I literally can't use it for like 3 minutes. And I don't have that many add-ins loaded. But I have some big ones like CodeRest for refactoring, and I use GhostDoc for documenting and spelling and stuff like that. So anyway, so that took a lot longer, right?
Yep.
And
it's still loading. It'll be.
It's still loading. Yeah.
Yeah, till it's ready.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Visual Studio says it's ready when it's not. That's the other thing, because then I start clicking on it, then it goes into non-responsive, and then I have to restart the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's given the current version. I can say that for Dev 17, we have a lot of plans that are improving this, specifically related to performance and responsiveness. Those are huge focus areas for the division right now. But I agree, sometimes it can be pretty slow when you first open it. I was going to say something. No, I don't remember what. Escaped my mind. I don't remember.
So, yeah, is it still loading? Oh my gosh.
No, it's done loading. Just have to expect it. Yep.
Right, cool. I'm getting some Visual Studio questions. So do you want to see if you can handle some Visual Studio questions?
I'm happy to answer what falls in my wheelhouse.
It's okay to say you don't know.
Okay.
How to push code from local folder using Git to Azure DevOps? You probably have never done that. That
is not my area.
Can we use code spaces instead of Visual Studio locally? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what scenario they're talking about. Do you mean do solution filters work with code spaces? Because they do.
No, I think they want to open Visual Studio in code spaces. Is that what you're saying? Oh, we'll see if he replies. There's a lag in the comments, about 10 plus seconds. All right, so we'll see if he does any more on that. So let's move on to one of my questions is, what are you really excited about in Visual Studio 22?
Ooh, in Visual Studio.
I know you have, 2022, not the dev version.
So I guess the areas that I'm looking at a lot are sort of opening your code and responsiveness after the code, the things that you actually mentioned as pain points a few minutes ago. And so I think that there's a ton of effort going into improving that experience, and I think it's going to be hopefully improved quite a bit. And so that's really exciting to me because I talk to a ton of users all the time about what their issues are, specifically with large solutions, and it comes up so often. And I also think I'm pretty excited about 64-bit as well. That is something that I probably get asked 4 times a week for the past 8 months. And now we can finally say that we're actually going through with that. So I think that's going to be a really, really impactful change. I'm excited for both those things. Yeah,
cool. So before we move off of Visual Studio and maybe talk about your college and being a newbie at Microsoft, I do want to make a plea to you that I have done with Kira and probably the rest of the Visual Studio people I've had on my show. I think you're at least the 4th one, but I don't know if I asked Kathleen this. But so here's my plea to you, because you're on the Visual Studio team. Can you please get somebody on the Visual Studio team to start having MVP sessions about new features you're working on, right? Before they're done. Right, because unfortunately, especially since we haven't, had the MVP summit for a while, I feel that, the Visual Studio team isn't using the MVPs to look at stuff before they're, done, like more of in a prototype phase. And then let me give you an example. So I thought of one this week where I don't know how many years ago this was. It had to be over 5 years ago. Maybe it was Visual Studio 2015, maybe. But we were at the MVP Summit, and you were showing us some stuff, and you were showing us these new icons, which you guys are saying for this version. And every MVP in the room said, no, don't do that, and you didn't do it, right? And so we're part of I'm part of the MVP program, and I don't even remember the last time that we had an MVP session to talk about new features, not show us new features, but talk about new features. So my plea to you is please start doing those and get somebody. I don't care how far you have to go up the chain, get somebody to do this, because I feel Visual Studio is being developed in the Microsoft bubble, right? And that's not necessarily, the real world out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can say, I specifically haven't worked with MVPs,
right.
and don't know if that's my wheelhouse necessarily, but I can pass that feedback along for sure. I will.
I'm going to ask every visual. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that for most, if not all features, we do an extensive amount of customer development. So maybe it's not necessarily MVPs, but I would say with external folks, most features are run by them. But good to hear that you guys want to give feedback, and I will definitely pass that along because I think that's super valuable.
Well, that's what we're here for. That's the whole purpose of the MVP Summit, is to give feedback to make the product better. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's why we're the experts, according to you guys, right? So I'm not saying I am one, but you guys say I am, so that's okay with me.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your college, and you said you could new grade. So, what was it like being a new grad in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, that was really interesting. Basically, I was in my senior year at school, and then in the spring, our school tells us to go home and finish our classes remotely. I think because I was in my fourth year and almost done and like finishing up most of my projects and my work and my course load, it was fine. Not fun, but it was fine. Then I had a super long break. I had the full summer where I was just at home waiting for my job to start and to move, but not really having a ton going on. I think it was really awesome to start my job, and everyone was like so great and friendly over Teams, not in person. So I've still never been to the office, never been inside. I don't know where my desk would be. I've never met any of my coworkers in person. So I'm so curious when I meet them to see how tall everyone is, because I just have no sense of that online. I think it'll be really interesting, especially now that I've been doing this and I mean, we all have been working remotely for so many months, that it's going to be a big change probably to go into the office. I'm used to working in my bedroom. I'm in my room right now. And so having to drive there every day and all these different things that I haven't thought of, I'm excited for, but it's going to be...
you are excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet people. I think I'll have a lot more like organic relationships that aren't just Teams meetings for a specific topic.
But the one great thing about a team meeting is if someone starts going off on a rant and you want to listen to them, you just say, close, right? Gone. I don't have to sit in the room and listen to this.
I don't often do that, but I have that option. You're right. Yeah, I do like having the ability to turn my camera off sometimes. Yeah. It's
so I come, I love working at home. I don't like working in the office, but I can I do see your point, because, I doubt if I would be the same kind of developer I am if I didn't have the connections as I did in the beginning. Right. But now I don't need those because I'm an MVP. Right. No.
Yeah. You're an expert now.
Yeah. No, not. So let's talk about you at the Grace Hopper College. That's an all-women's college. Is that true?
So Grace Hopper, the Grace Hopper conference is a
that's a conference. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
But it's an amazing experience. So I think it happens, might be a little different because of COVID, but traditionally it was in the fall. And they would pick a city, and basically it was the largest women's technology conference in the world, and so many people and companies go there, and there's all kinds of, like any talk or any conference, all kinds of talks, presentations, and then there's also a recruiting job fair. But what was super cool about Grace Hopper Conference is that they put a ton of effort into making sure students are able to go. And so there's all sorts of like scholarships. All the big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them sponsor students to go as well from like different schools. So my school, for example, Claremont McKenna College, got 10 tickets and we were able to go. And it's for all ages, and there's just so much cool stuff that happens there that it's a great, great experience. And I love the push to get more women in technology, especially if you can get younger students to go. I think like it's such a convincing event. And then also like for the older students, there's a ton of recruiting there as well. And so there's like a whole fair area that has like every company with booths for recruiting, which I think is really great. And then a lot of the companies have fun events afterwards, like they'll go golfing or like a silent disco or all types of random things, but it just makes it really, really fun and exciting. And especially coming from school, like that wasn't something I'd seen before I'd been to the conference.
Yeah. And did you get recruited out of that conference?
I did actually, yes.
For Microsoft or another company? For Microsoft.
Yeah, for Microsoft. Yep.
Oh, good for Microsoft for supporting that. That's great.
Yeah. No, it was really awesome. I had done a couple interviews beforehand, and then I had multiple interviews at the conference. There's like an interview area, and those ended up resulting in my job offer. So it was really, really cool.
Did you walk around with resumes in your hand and stuff?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. When you go to, this is one thing I say in my technical interview conference session and in my book, is that when you go to conferences like this, all you young people out there, don't take a thumb drive. It takes too much time, and they could lose it, or they just won't look at it. Take paper, paper, so you can hand it to them. They can make notes, and they can remember you by a piece of paper, not a file name, right? So always take paper, not files. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I like that tip. And yeah, if there's any women watching this that want help finding resources to go, I've sent a couple of links before, so feel free to tweet me, because I think every girl should go and experience that, because it's just a very inspiring and innovative conference.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's but to me, I would, especially as a somebody new in the tech world, walking up to a Microsoft booth would be horribly intimidating to me. Especially if I think of myself back then, 27 years ago or more, I'd think I'd be afraid to go to Microsoft or Google, going, what do I know?
No, I do not think that, or I would hope not. But also, all the booths are so nice. They all have like most conferences, probably they have like swag that they give away and all sorts of things. I honestly feel like it was pretty fun to walk around that. Some of my friends that weren't as worried about recruiting did like swag tours, so they would just try to go and see things they could get.
Did they give out T-shirts?
Some did T-shirts, yeah.
What?
All sorts.
Where do you think developers get most of their shirts? From conferences. I hardly buy shirts at all anymore.
That's awesome.
I know. I have so many conference shirts that I've gotten for free at conferences. It's incredible. I've had to donate a whole bunch of them. So there's people out there walking around with Microsoft T-shirts and stuff like that, because I've donated all that stuff, especially because I lost 130 pounds, so I had to donate all that old stuff because they're like tents on me now, right? And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else you want to talk about before you go?
No, I don't think so. I saw one question that we went over asking if I had a blog. I do not have a blog, but I do like to tweet things and sort of try to get feedback on there. And then there's a couple of blog posts and stuff that I will be writing, but through Microsoft's internal site as well.
Here, I have a blog name for you.
Yeah.
Hidden Secrets in Visual Studio.
Okay.
Dot blog. There you go. And you can write them since you're the newbie. And that'd be great. Don't you guys think? Don't you think she should do a blog and write about the hidden stuff we don't know about Visual Studio? I'm going to get you in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. Kathleen and Scott and everybody's going to get mad at me now.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to do that. No, I think if people are interested in that, then I would try to tackle that. I think.
Cool. So
I also want to learn these.
So what's your, if you want to share, you don't have to, but what's your career path at Microsoft? What are you thinking? What do you want to do next after this?
Yeah, I mean, so in my mind, I'm still pretty new and I really, really love the program management role, but I have a lot to learn there, I think. I mean, I'm lucky to be surrounded by such great PMs all the time, and people are really willing to like answer questions, share their customer data, their processes, everything like that. I definitely see myself staying at Microsoft for a while. And I feel like the developer space, there's so many different kinds of technologies. I mean, every space is broad, but I feel like especially the developer space that I'm still getting onboarded just to this general area. And so if I'm going to put in all this time and like energy into learning about this, then I probably want to stay here a while. The more I learn, it's really interesting because as a PM for developers, but I'm not actually a developer, it's a fine line between, okay, what exactly do I need to know and what do I not need to know? But I would say like there's a ton of technical things that I do need to have a really good understanding of. And so I'm still trying to like learn all those and test things out, but without coding every day, but to get a feel for what the developer experience is.
But you do know how to code, right? You've coded front end stuff, right? So you do have a coding background, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's one of my pet peeves of PMs actually is companies hiring PMs that have no idea how software engineering works. And it's really, and managers too. And it's really frustrating when you have somebody trying to manage a team they really don't understand, you know? So I'm glad Microsoft is doing it the right way. Thanks, Microsoft. You know, can you teach the other companies to do the same thing?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's interesting. I think there's also a ton of value to incorporate people without computer science backgrounds, because I think diversity can create really cool things that we wouldn't have thought of. But yeah, I think especially for the developer division at Microsoft, which is what I'm in, it is important to have at least a general sense of computer science and coding practices and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think I've got to go. Well, I don't know. Are there any more questions? We'll wait a couple seconds before I go, because we have a little bit of time. We could answer some more questions if anybody wants. Oh, well, let me ask the last question that I ask all my guests. And so, what do you do for fun? I know that you moved there during the pandemic, but you know, so that will change soon, I hope. But you know, what have you been doing for fun to get out and not go stir crazy?
Yeah, important. I have been, so this winter, I tried to snowboard as much as possible. Super lucky in Seattle. It's like an hour and a half away. And so it was awesome. We tried to go like as many weekends as possible. Now that it's no longer snowing, I've been trying to hike and basically just spend as much time outdoors as possible. I also like painting. That's another fun one. I was an art minor as well in school, and so I think art projects are pretty fun as well. Yeah,
if I know most of the people on the call on my show today have never been to Seattle or Washington State in America, but it's a very beautiful state, and it rains a heck of a lot, but it's a very beautiful state, and there's so much to do up there. It's you can never run out of stuff to do there. It's a pretty cool state. I like going to visit there for sure. Then visit though, because I don't like the rain. But so I do like to visit. It's like I like to visit snow, but I don't want to live in it. Right? I
Fair.
grew up in snow. I'm done. You know, I don't need snow anymore. I like to visit it and play on it like you do. You know, snowboarding and things like that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, Simon wants to go to Washington. Yeah, Simon, when you're here for the conference, let's go. You know, I'll go to Washington with you. I'll show you around the Microsoft campus. Not that I know much about it.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah, have you ever been on the campus?
I went to the campus, like the outside of it once, a couple of years ago, but not.
You've never driven through it.
Not the full.
I mean, you
thing.
never. Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I know which building I'm in, but I have no idea where that is or what that looks like or anything.
So you were hired and you didn't even have to go to the Microsoft at all.
No, and that was because I was hired through Grace Hopper at the conference. But that's not normal, I think, for most hires.
Yeah. Wow.
But I kind of wish I'd gone to the campus now. At the time I was like, oh, I don't have to travel there. And now I'm like,
well, how far are you away from the campus?
I'm probably a 20-minute drive, but maybe closer to 40 with traffic once things start picking up. But yeah, hopefully I'll take the buses there and it'll be chill. We'll see.
Yeah, I know they have those buses that take whole bus loads of you into the campus every day, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see those. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you. And the comments have been awesome. I can't wait to use this feature. And I hope after this experience, you'll want to come back on and talk more about these. You always have an open invitation. If anything you want to talk about, just email me and I'll put it into the schedule anytime.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'll think a little bit about that blog idea.
Yeah, you should do it. All right. Thank you very much.
Cool.
I'm glad you were here.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow, that was great, everybody. And I've got lots of great comments and coming in here about how excited they are about this feature that she showed us. So, and I'm excited. So I can't wait to get to try it. I don't think I can today, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, this is pretty cool. As every week, everybody wins. Can download a free licensed copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. All of you out there who don't know what CodeRush is, it's my favorite code refactoring tool for Visual Studio. And if you're not using a refactoring tool, you need to download one and start using one. The refactoring in Visual Studio is good, but these tools go far beyond what Visual Studio does, and it makes me a more productive developer every single day that I'm coding. So I hope you'll download it, give it a try. My teammates at work are doing it because work won't buy them CodeRush, so they're using the free version too, and they love it. So I hope you do that. So new code rules. So something came up this week that I wanted to talk about in my new code rules, and as usual, new code rules is probably going to stir some controversy, and that's kind of the point. I want to get people thinking about what I want to talk about, and most of these new code rules will be from something. Will always be from something I experienced that I think needs to be better. And so here's the one for this week. Why do I have to be a Git expert to use the freaking thing? Please tell me why, right? I've seen tweets lately that you're not a real developer if you're not an expert at Git, or I'm a Git expert. I'm amazing. And I'm going, no, we shouldn't need to be experts at a source control repository. I'm sorry, maybe the admin people, but the people using it should not be experts. Don't be proud you're an expert of Git. That means you're not learning other features that will really help you with programming, because Git has nothing to do with making our code better and things like that, really, in a sense. It's just a tool that we have to use, right, these days. We didn't even have tools like this when I started. So, the thing is, Git is, from a command line. And how many things do I have to learn to use the dang thing? Really, Look at this is just a small subset of the commands that I don't really know what they do in Git. And why do I happen to be an expert to figure this stuff out? Please tell me. Somebody, please. Because this has to be better. And why am I pleading with everybody today about this? Is because I switched branches this week. And when I did that, the code I was working on, I only was working on it for like a day, and I was just testing things. So it's nothing, I didn't do really real coding in it. But when I switched branches, the old branch, all the code, poof, disappeared into thin air, right? The folders were there, but all the code was gone. And it took me like half an hour to get everything back working again, right? Why? And I'll mention that in a second too. You know, if I need this taped to the wall next to my desk, there's a usability problem, people. Really. When I work at a company in the office, I have to tape this next to my desk. Why? That is not easy to me. And this is why we have so many issues with code repositories, blowing away code, screwing stuff up, taking too much of our time, right? I worked at a company not too long ago, about 10 years ago, and I went around and talked to all the developers. And I said, and we weren't using Git then because I don't think Git was even around. But the repository we were using, I won't tell you which one, I said, how much time do you think you waste every week just dealing with the repository? And the average was 5 hours. 5 hours? Are you kidding? You know how much money that is times 400 developers at that company? You know, this is why I spearheaded moving them off that into the newer repository for Microsoft back then, right? But still, this shouldn't be this complex. I'm sorry, you know, and because it is so dang complex because I'm so tired of repositories, every single repository I've ever used in my life has blown away my code. Every single one, right? And because of that, in 2016, when I was recovering from a broken leg, I wrote this utility app just because of this, right? My utility app scans your computer and makes a backup of all your folders that have code in it, right? And I run this every single time I even touch anything about the repository, because this is what saves me, and this is what saved me this week, is my own utility, right? If anybody wants it, please email me. I'll be happy to zip the current version to you, right? And so why do I have to do a backup, right? Just because there's a chance that it's doing something where the repository is going to lose code. And when I was a younger developer, I've lost days of code. Yeah, it's my bad. I should have done more, you know, local commits and stuff, but I did. So I lost days of code because of these issues. So, you know, my big call out for this week's topic is GitHub and Visual Studio. You need to make this much, much easier. I'm talking to you two because you're the same company, right? So, so this is what I want, GitHub and Visual Studio. Git for Dummies add-in, right? Because really, what do I do most of the time? Pull, commit, create branch. Beyond that, I suck at repositories. And I suck so bad that I have a junior person on my team do all the other stuff right now because I'm so afraid I'm going to screw things up. I shouldn't have to go to class, use a code repository. I'm sorry. I won't accept this. So GitHub and Visual Studio, come on, call me. Let's work on this. All right. Wow. I really got on my soapbox on that one. Sorry about that. But I really want this. And if anybody else really wants this, quickly say yes in the comments. So somebody in GitHub and the Microsoft Visual Studio team will read them. So next week I'm off. I'm really excited. Well, I'm excited. I'm not excited there's not a show, but I'm excited there isn't one because I'm taking my first trip further than 10 miles from my house in well over a year. I'm so excited. So I'm going to have so much fun next weekend. And I'll sure I'll have pictures to show you on some upcoming show. So please stay safe from the COVID pandemic. I know things are horrible in India right now. I wish I could help. The only thing I can do is plead to other software engineers for all of them to donate to help you guys out there. I hope things get better there really, really soon. And yeah, let's not. The whole world has to step up. That's all I have to say. And also, if you're able to donate blood, which most of you are, please go donate to your local blood bank, no matter where that is in the world. I'm donating tomorrow, and I encourage everybody to do a donation. If you do, please tweet about your experience. It's free, it's easy, and it warms my heart, at least, because I know I've helped multiple people from one of my single donations. So please email me suggestions, comments, anything you want to do to Rockin The Code World at CSharpCorner.com. And with that, I'll see you in 2 weeks.